Hello, good evening. Welcome to the cooking class. So we are going to get started here. Tonight is number 1 of 5, and tonight we are doing sloppy joes with homemade focaccia bread, olive focaccia bread. And also we're going to do a zucchini salad with homemade dressing. So I have this here on the cutting board, which is where your view will be for most of the night. And I'll pop in periodically just to say hi and see if you have any questions. So why don't we get started with the focaccia bread? That's the thing that's going to take the longest, so we'll get going with that first. And if you have your ingredients, we're going to get those out. So I'm going to put these away. We don't need these right away. The first thing we're going to use, though, is we need our almond flour. We need our flaxseed meal, excuse me, and we have some baking powder here. We're going to be using the food processor to put this together. So I have this, and I have this kind of handy little small one. This one is actually doubles as a blender, so you can see it just has the standard blender controls, and then it has that attachment. So very handy if you don't have a lot of space, or if you do, or you don't want to get out the full big one, meaning the full food processor, you can use this one. So let's see, if you have your measuring cups, and you can get this, and we're going to just mix everything right in the food processor. So no need to dirty up a bowl for that. You're also going to want to get your square pan or round pan, whatever it is that you're going to be using for your actual bread. I'm going to be using a rectangular glass pan, so it looks just like this. And I've already pre-cut the parchment paper, so that's just going to sit right in there. You're going to want to have that so that your dough, your batter, doesn't actually stick to the container. All right, so we're going to start out with a half a cup of almond flour, and whatever your measuring cups are, that's fine. I use these handy little guys. They smash down, so that's super cool. And we're just going to scoop it right in. Everything is going to go right inside of the food processor. Again, so, excuse me, no need to messy up a bowl. If you can see that, let me just move the food processor back a little bit, and I'll pull this over here so you can see that. And we're just going to add the almond flour. It doesn't matter what brand you get. I'm not endorsing any particular brand. This is just the one that I have. All right, so we have our almond flour in there. And next we are going to add 1/4 cup of flaxseed meal. So that's just going to help it bind together. And again, I'm just going to use my little guy right here. I keep a spoon in here because I often use this in my smoothie in the morning. So I just have a spoon in here to make that easy. All right, so that's just going to go right in there as well. Let's put these over to the side. Next, let's add our 2 teaspoons of baking powder. I have the low sodium, just because wherever I can cut salt, I will. And this is just another way of doing that. In fact, the recipe does call for salt, so that's up to you. This is the 1/2 teaspoon, so we're going to put in 4 of those. So that's going to be 1. Next one, that's 2. And lastly, we have 3. And that's 4. I lost count. All right, so we have our baking powder, and then 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Again, I do not cook with salt, so I'm not going to be putting that in. But you feel free to do that if you would like. The next thing it calls for is eggs. It does call for 4 eggs. I use egg whites. So instead of eggs, I'm going to be using egg whites. And it's 2 tablespoons equals 1 egg. So for that, 2 tablespoons. So for that, that means I am going to be using 2, 4, and 2. So I'm going to use 8 tablespoons. I think that's a 1/2 cup. So we'll just go ahead and count those out. So that's equivalent of 1 egg. That's going to be 2 eggs. That's 3 eggs. And we've got 1, 2, that's 4 eggs. Okay, so how's everybody doing out there? Hope you're doing well. Okay, I don't see any comments or questions, so go ahead and just add these in. Actually, let me just double check. I think you want to mix the dry No, we'll go ahead and just add that right in. And then we're just going to mix all that together. And that's pretty much going to be our dough. So I wanted to start this first so that we could put it in the oven while we are making the other ingredients. All right, so attach that, turn that on. Why don't we just spatula that down, make sure it's mixed in well, and then we're going to add in our olives. And again, olives are optional. You don't have to use those if you don't want to. So the dressing, the batter is a little thick. It's not watery, so that's the consistency you're going to be looking for. If you were using eggs, it's probably going to be a little bit runnier. So you just note that our textures may look different if you are actually using eggs. Now we need 1/4 cup of water. So we have this right here. So I'm just going to add a little water. That's great. Pour the water in, and then we want to also add the olives. So for the olives, it's going to be 3/4 of the olives. The total amount of olives you're going to need is 6 pitted olives. I've got this multicolor pack. You can, again, get whatever you want. I'm just going to, they all have different flavor. So that's going to be 3, and I'm just going to use 2 of each. I'm only going to use 1 of the red ones because I have, let's see, 2, 4, 6, because I want to save some of the red ones for the top. So these are not pitted. If you get pitted ones, that's going to make your life a lot easier, and also if you use a smaller knife. So let's just cut that around. I don't know if you can see that. Pretty simple there. We want to slice these into the batter. So I'm just going to slice around the pit since all of these were not pitted. If you purchase them in a can, you can get them pitted. And this is not going to matter. It doesn't have to be neat or perfect because we're going to put them right here in the food processor and grind them up. So you're going to be good there. All right, so that's the one black one. We've got the green one coming up now. We were just going to cut this off, cut it around the pit here. Alrighty, how's everybody doing? You doing okay out there? I can see you. I'm still here. All right, so I feel like it's more important for you to actually see what's going on the cutting board than to actually see me, which of course you can at any time, checking out my Facebook page. Now, speaking of checking out things, I will say that if you like avocado, I do have a download that has avocado recipes. So you can help yourself to that. You can just go to my website to get that. And that is laurenbright.com/avocado. And I will drop that in the comments later. And you can go and get that. Lots of good recipes in there. One of the things that I love to do is try new recipes that, if keeping my A1C level down without using medication weren't a necessity, I wouldn't try. So all of these are just new ways of eating, changing your lifestyle so that, again, you can continue to enjoy the life you have, still eat food that tastes really good, but also not worry about the impact that it's going to have on your hemoglobin A1C level. Of course, again, the idea is to minimize the carbs because that is the thing that will tend to spike your blood sugars the most. So, all right, so we've got our olives all cut up there, got them pitted, and I'm just going to give another quick little chop here and give them a little bit of a head start before we put them into the food processor. And let's get that pit out of there, and then we'll be ready to go on to the next ingredients. Now, again, this recipe calls for 6 of these olive, which we have here. So we're going to only put in 3/4 of these, and we're going to save the rest for the top of the bread once we put it in the oven. All right, so we've got that. Let's separate out a little bit. Let's get some of these red ones so we have a nice, pretty top, a nice variety of color. And we're just going to drop these into the food processor. All right, so we got everything in there. We've got the water in there. And you know, the other thing about salt, because I purchase these from the store, they are going to have their own level of sodium. Again, I just don't find that it's necessary to add salt to things. You know, there's some chemists that they may disagree with me, and that's okay. All right. Now, I will say if I'm baking, if I'm like making a cake, which this is bread, so I may have wanted to put in a little bit of salt, but I cooked without salt, even the recipe calls for it in the past, and no problem. Why do I do that? Again, wherever I can cut down on sodium and keep my, also my blood pressure down without medication is an opportunity to do that. Okay, here we go. Okay, great. So that is all mixed up now, and we have all of our ingredients in. I'm going to bring over the pan, and we are going to add in, so we can put this away. We don't need this anymore. That's that low sodium baking soda. So here is the pan for the dressing. I do not know. I have no idea why I keep saying dressing. All right, so we are going to pour that in. All right, so there we have it. And you know, I feel like I want to use a smaller pan. Honestly, this did not yield as much of this batter as I wanted. So what I am going to do is swap this out. And I have a smaller round pan down here, so I'm going to grab that. I was afraid that would happen, so I'm just going to use this smaller pan here. Even though it's round, that'll be fine. All right, so let's go ahead and add. Still looks a little large, but you know, that's all right. We are doing this as an experiment today, and that is going to be fine. Got that going, got that going. All right, that's great. I should have, let's see, I'm going to do one more thing here. Here, 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 and here. All right, so let's see if you can see that. Let's see, let's get our spatula back. Okay, so we are going to just get the rest of the batter out of here, which is great. And wipe that off the inside. We don't want to leave any in there. This just turned out to be just a little bit less than I would have liked. So guess what I'm going to do now? I'm going to go to option 3 for a pan. So I have a pan in the oven that has been heating. So I'm just going to pull that out and put the parchment paper filled with our dough right onto this other pan. All right, so here we go. Here we go. I have this little guy here, and we're just going to bring this over, put this on top. Honestly, this was my first choice for a pan to use earlier today, but I said, oh, maybe I should go with something a little bit bigger. I'm not quite sure what happened to my spatula. Here we go. All right, so let's just spread this around nice and thin, nice and even. And then the other thing we're going to do is put a few more olives on top. As I mentioned, we want to finish with some olives on top. The oven has been preheating, so it's ready to go. We are, like I said, just want to add this last little bit of olives. Make sure this is evenly spread, and it is. Here are those other olives. And ideally on these, we're going to smash them down into the batter so that they cook in, but still are, we still have some on top for some visual interest once they come out, once it comes out of the oven. So you can also add your salt here and also some thyme. I have some fresh thyme that I got from a friend's garden, and I just keep it here in this little baggie. So that's over here. So I'm just going to get that going. And we're just going to sprinkle a little bit of thyme on the top of that. And that's done. And then this is what we have. So again, that pan just came out of the skillet, so it was hot. So I'm going to show you that really quickly. So that's what mine is going to look like, going right into the oven. All right, so we've got that. Excellent. And back into the oven this goes. It's nice and hot, and we're just going to set a timer. So ideally this would cook for 25 minutes. I do not think, and the oven is on 375. I do not think it's going to take that long. So I am just going to set the timer for 10 minutes, and we're going to check it in 10 minutes and see how it does. Okay, we're good? Now we're going to start on the sloppy joe. So for that, we are just going to use the skillet here. I use this diamond skillet. I love this skillet. I use it for almost everything. Again, not an ad, but it's really great and cleans easily and very versatile. So for that one, we're just going to start it up. Now, the recipe does call for a pound of turkey. For our purposes, I did get some ground turkey and also some Italian turkey. So I'm going to use half of half. So this is Italian sausage, and it's also just mild turkey. Before we put that in, though, we do want to put in we want to chop up some onions, and we want to get those in there and have those be sauteing. So the recipe calls for a full small onion. They did not have any small onions, so I got this medium onion. Typically, when I am cooking recipes that call for onion, I will actually put in a little bit less, just because I like the flavor of onion, but I don't want it to overpower the dish. So that's a personal preference. You can use whatever color onions you like. I like using the red onions, and that's what I got. So if you like the white onions, the yellow onions, up to you. I like the red ones. They're a little bit sweeter, so that is why that is my preference. And they just don't have as sharp of a flavor, but they do enhance the dish. So to give you an idea, the recipe does call for a whole onion, but I'm not using the whole onion. I'm just going to use part of the onion. So we're going to get that going. I've got some olive oil out over there, you can see that. And then from that, we are going to put the olive oil in. And I'll just put that in now. Really, I think it just calls for a tablespoon of olive oil. We still have the handy tablespoon out here. So I'm going to pop that in there and just let that be heating up. This pan heats up very quickly. You can probably hear it sizzling already. And I'm going to turn the heat down on it a little bit. And let's get our onions in there. We're going to get a nice sizzle on that, and that is just fine. I probably tend to have my onions overcooked just a little bit. Because, there goes some onions on the floor. That's okay. That's the rug is for. So, again, that's personal preference. So, making these as small or as large as you like, because you will be getting bites of these in your sloppy joe. So, I'm just going to bring the skillet over here. And there we go. Onions in the pan. All right, so while those are going, we do need some onions for the salad dressing. So I'm going to chop a little bit of those. I don't know about you, but my eyes are starting to water. I'm not crying, I'm not sad. A little bit of teary, but that's just part of cooking with onions. All right, so we've got that. I'm going to get another little chunk off of there and peel that. We don't need that. We don't need that. And let's get the peeling off over here. Okay, there's that. So tell me in the comments, what do you like? Do you prefer white onions, red onions, or yellow onions? What kind do you use when a recipe calls for onions? Generally, with a recipe, I will do some kind of a modification, sometimes multiple kinds of modifications. Just like with this recipe, I've already said that it calls for ground turkey, and I'm using half ground turkey and half ground turkey sausage. So even that is a modification. If they had the spicy Italian sausage, I would have elected to use that because it just adds another layer of flavor. So that would have been awesome, but that wasn't available, so we're just going to go with what we've got. They are cooking up nicely over there. That's good. Okay, so if you got your ground turkey, some minced garlic. So I did just get this new little fancy tool to mince my garlic with. Maybe you guys have used this before, but I have been in the habit of just crushing my garlic with a knife, and on some other cooking shows it was suggested to me that I try out this tool, which I have just purchased. So it is a tool from Pampered Chef. Maybe you've heard of it. Not endorsing it, but I'm saying that's where I got it. And so apparently you just put this guy in here and smash, and then you have your garlic. And you don't have to peel it. So there we go. Out comes the garlic. That's pretty cool. Oh, that is very cool. And then what's left is just this little bit of skin. So I like it. There's a little bit of garlic on here. So I want to brush that off with a knife so we can use all of our product. But the the recipe calls for 1 teaspoon. That's about 1 teaspoon. That's it. And what else? So we've got the olive oil and the onions. We are going to add the ground turkey and the garlic. So I'm adding that, and just so you can see, so the onions are pretty translucent when they've gotten soft. Of course, they're going to cook a little bit more once we put in the meat. So let's go ahead and add the turkey itself, and then also the turkey sausage. All right. So this is a pound. The recipe calls for a pound, but again, I'm mixing it up, so I'm using half. So I'm just going to crumble this in here now. Crumble, crumble, crumble. I'm crumbling. Sure you've seen that. I'll show that to you in just a moment, what it looks like. And then I'm going to open up the package of the sausage and put that in there as well. Okay, so we have, let's get this out of the way, and let's go and put in our turkey sausage. Again, this is completely optional. You can use all the ground turkey, you can use ground beef, ground chicken, whatever you want to use. Entirely up to you. I just like to add in a little bit more because I like multiple layers of flavor. So we're going to add that in there. And actually, the turkey sausage is going to give it a little different texture as well. It has a little bit more fat in it than the ground turkey, so that's going to add some flavor. And it'll cook at the same rate. I'm not worried about that. But, you know, with turkey itself, if you don't season it, it can be pretty plain. So that is another reason to add to mix the two. So you can see here what I've got. Just have that all broken up. So let's put it back on the heat so it can keep cooking. All right, there's that. Okay, so we've got that going, got the turkey in there, and then the next thing we're going to do is put in some pasta sauce and let that go. The bread is looking good, so that's awesome. And let's put this off to the side. I see, so the onions we're going to use for the zucchini salad. So earlier I cut up the zucchini. I cut it into these ribbons, and they're lovely. So we will use those. I'll show you how I did those in just a moment, so that if you want to give that a try, you can. You don't have to buy special tools, but it's helpful. Okay, so now we're going to let that keep cooking. I'm going to turn the heat up just a little bit so that we can have that continue to go. And then we're going to move to finish up the noodles, the zucchini noodles, and then we're going to make the salad dressing. So the turkey is cooking up nicely. That is great, and that is perfect. And now let me show you what I did. So I have this little tool thing. It is it's an OXO, and it came with some other I don't know what you call them, just other cutting devices. It stacks into 3, and then you can store it, and it has this lid. But I am using the one that cuts these ribbons so that it makes this actual look. So the zucchini ribbon. So put that in there. The recipe calls for 4 zucchini. The zucchinis that I used were pretty large, and if you get smaller ones, I would say 4. This recipe really is only for 2 people, but because of the quantity of zucchini noodles that it has created, I am going to freeze half of this recipe, and then I will use the rest of it for the salad now. Otherwise, I'm going to be eating zucchini salad all day. So with this, you just put the zucchini right on here, and then you twist it. So if you twist the zucchini, you can see, okay, that's our 10 minutes for the oven. All right, so if you see that, I'm just twisting this, and we're getting this nice zucchini ribbon coming out. So we'll just pull some of that off. We keep twisting. The other thing you can do is just twist the actual container. That works, I find, a little bit better, just because it's not as slick. So we put that in there, and so you can see here we have just this full bowl of zucchini noodles. Excuse me. All right, so let's now check our bread since the timer went off. Let's see how that's doing. Coming along, coming along. The meat is coming along. All right, so that is good. Almost done there. The bread is just about done. It doesn't have a lot of fat in it, so it is going to not take very long to cook. And it's going to have a drier look than, let's say, you know, a cake or something like that. So it's not to say that it'll be dry, it'll just have a drier look. All right, so we've got that going. Now let us get to making the dressing for our salad. Now I had some other bowls out. So we have the bowls here, and this one for the dressing, we need the onion for the salad, the zucchini, and the recipe does call for 1 tomato. So I actually like these little small cherub tomatoes because it just allows me to have a little bit more variety during the week for the use of the tomato. So I don't need a whole tomato, but I can just get these and I can cut them in half for the salad, and then the rest of the tomato doesn't go bad. So for the salad, if I'm only going to use this amount that you see here on the cutting board, the rest of the ones that are uncut, I can put back in the refrigerator, have as a little snack during the day, and not actually have to worry about the tomatoes going bad. So I'm just cutting these in half, and we're going to add those to the zucchini. We're going to add the onions, and then I'm going to add we also have some feta cheese. So I want to make the dressing so that when this is all in here, let's put this over here so it's still in view. So we're adding the tomatoes. Probably could use a few more tomatoes here, which I will in just a moment. Let's give that guy a cut there. I can smell the meat going. It is smelling delicious. Let's adding now the onions. So we've got our salad coming together. Looking pretty good there. A few more onions left over here on the countertop, so we're going to add those. Add, and then, as I said, I'm going to add a few more tomatoes. So that it's just a little more balanced, so that we get a little bit of tomato, a little bit of zucchini, a little bit of onion with each serving, maybe with each bite, if that's kind of nice to have that variety. Okay, so we've got all the tomato in there. That's good. And so lime juice. So it does call for 2 tablespoons of, and this is for the dressing. And what I'm doing here is just rolling the lime so that the juices will loosen up. I did buy 2 limes, so I may need both of them. I may not. I'm not sure. We'll see in just a moment. All right, so the other things we want to have in the salad are some pitted olives. So we're back to needing pitted olives again. And we've got our red one here. We've got the black one. Quite a few black ones in here. And we'll bring out these other two green ones. All right, so there we go there. And so I would just recommend that you buy these already pitted so that you have nice, pretty looking olives in your salad and you don't have the tedious task of having to cut the olive meat off like I am having to do. So, complete oversight on my part, but that is okay. We can still use these olives and they are still going to taste delicious. They're nice and tender. I do like the fact that they're so fresh though. I will say that. So it could be worth it to have to chop them. I'm going to turn around here and check on the meat because it's starting to smell done. Yes, yes, and yes. Got the garlic and the onion all mixed in there. It smells delicious. And so the other thing now that we're going to add, it calls for a half a jar of tomato sauce. So, this is this is a 32-ounce jar. So really that would be a 12-ounce jar, so 6 ounces. So we are just going to put in a cup of the pasta sauce. So that's 8 ounces. All right, so we got that. So I'll give you a shot of that. All right, so that is good, looking good. So just mix that up, mix that around. So that was 1 cup. Again, if we were using a 12-ounce jar, that would be 6 ounces. So I've got a little bit more in there, but based on the amount of meat, maybe I had a little bit more than a pound. That's about the right amount. Let's go ahead and take our bread out because it was looking done. And it is. Okay, so I think we got a little bit more, a few more minutes on that. The test for whether the bread is done is when you smash it, you want it to spring back. So it was still, the surface of it cracked a little bit. So it seemed like there was still some uncooked dough inside. So we'll let that go a little bit longer. All right, so tomato sauce all mixed in here. Looking good, looking good, looking good. Okay. All right, so let that simmer a little bit longer, and let's finish with our olive project here. You can imagine if I just bought a can of these, we could have just dumped them in and been done. But again, we're going to have the flavors, we're going to have the look, and it's going to be okay. It is going to be okay. Fortunately, there's so much creativity that comes with cooking that something like this is not the end of the world. But we are pleased with the outcome. And then we've got that red one over there that did not have a pit. And I think that may be what threw me off, is that's what I saw when I saw the container and I saw that it didn't have a pit. So I assumed, and we know what happens when we assume, that none of the rest of them had pits either. But that was wrong. We worked around it. We got it worked out. We are now just going to chop these into smaller pieces, bite-sized pieces, so that they get evenly distributed in the salad. This is going to be so good, you guys. I hope that you are excited about what you are making and that you are going to enjoy this. This is going to be food for a couple of days, and you are not going to have to figure out what is for dinner, which is always a bonus every day. What's for dinner? What's for dinner? Now, I have answered that question for you today. You do not have to decide what's for dinner. I'm telling you right now. All right, so let's go ahead and add the olives. And so this was was called for 6 olives, and these are some pretty good sized olives. So now we have those in there. Oh my goodness. Doesn't that look good? Looks so good. Yummers. Okay, look at that. Delish. Okay, so now that's all of the dressing in there. 1 avocado is going to go in there as well. I am not sure about this avocado. So we might not have avocado in our salad because this one I've had for a while and it's not horrible. There's some salvageable parts to it. So we are just going to scoop this out, scoop out the good part. There we go. And we're going to leave the bad part behind. That is perfect, perfect, perfect. That's that. Excellent. We will take that off just like a banana. You just can get rid of the brown parts. We don't need that. There's the pit. Get rid of the brown parts on that. You know, sometimes with avocados, they feel firm, but then there's a little bit of mush inside, and that is okay. Still good. All right, so we got that all scooped out. That's perfect. And we're going to slice that, and it's a little bit of a mash, totally fine, because once we get it all mixed in there, it is going to be yummy. Okay, so there's that. So that is really, really awesome. And I'll show you there. Make sure you can see that. That's very good. And last thing we're going to put in there is our feta. So the recipe calls for 3 ounces of feta. I'm going to turn our meat off. It's sizzling, so we are good there. And there's our timer. We can stop that. And that's letting us know that it's time for our bread to come out. So we'll take the bread out. Oh yeah, that's much better. I'll show you what that's doing. So that's what the bread looks like. Yum. Can you see that? So just smashing it in there. And then you can also tell on the edges that it's also done. You can just see on the edges that it's lifting up. All right, so I'm going to put that down on the stove and let that be cooling. And we are going to add our cheese to our salad. So 3 ounces is, I am estimating that is going to be about 1/3 of a cup, but let's just double check. This is the 1/3 of a cup measuring cup. Can you guys see that? I've got the scale out. Let me just add this here and here and here and here. So we'll turn this on. You can see that. All right, so it's on ounces. And we'll go ahead and do the tare on it. Tare again, get it to 0. And we want 3 ounces of cheese. So that is going to be more, way more than that. It's looking like it might even be a cup. So that's a 1/2 cup measuring cup. And then we are going to put the cheese in. That's 2.7. Okay, so it's a solid 1/2 cup for 3 ounces. All right, so that's that, and that did allow for the tare as well. So just to confirm that, but it was 3/10 over, so we'll just sprinkle in a little bit more. All right, so salad is done. Yummers, looking good. All the ingredients are in there. So now let's make our salad dressing. So for the salad dressing, you are going to want your Greek yogurt. I just use this brand. It's 2%. This is the Faye. I like the 2% because it just has a little bit more fat. And just, again, just that extra layer of flavor without being overbearing. So it's a 1/3 of a cup of that. So that is about that much. We have 1/3 of a cup right here. You can tell that's about 1/3 of a cup. All right, so pop that right in there. Salt and pepper to taste. I love pepper, so I put in a lot more pepper than probably most folks. I do use the fresh ground pepper, so just, you know, whatever brand you want to use, or if you have your own grinder, put that in there. No particular amount, just, again, salt and pepper to taste, or no salt. And then this is where our lime juice comes in, so it's 2 tablespoons of lime juice. And the recipe does also call for stevia. If you want to have a more tart dressing, then you can just not put in the stevia. So we are going to just squeeze the lime juice into our spoon there. This is a good juicy lime. So there's 1, and then we are going to squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. And that is going to give us 2. That's our 2 tablespoons of lime juice right in there. Next, we're going to add 4 drops of the stevia liquid. So, again, keeping in mind, in the interest of not spiking your blood sugars, stevia is going to be better for you than sugar or syrup or even something like that. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4. So we got our 4 drops of stevia in there. There we go. And then we are going to put in our chili. So it's 1 fresh chili. The recipe does not call for a jalapeno, but I like jalapeno, so I'm going to use a little bit of jalapeno, and then I'm going to use a little bit of the red chili. So we're going to do a combination here. Again, I love modifying recipes just to put ingredients in there that I enjoy, and you can certainly do that as well. I encourage it very much. But if you're just getting started cooking out, maybe your physician has just diagnosed you as a pre-diabetic patient, and someone that has this condition, and you are looking for ways to get started and still be able to eat so that you can control your A1C level without the use of medication, so that you can prevent the onset of type 2 diabetes. Maybe you just want to follow the recipe as given instead of doing this variety. And so as you improve your health, as you get more comfortable in the kitchen, then you can certainly start adding some different ingredients and kind of going off recipe, as I like to call it. All right, so the chili here is just about done. I am also going to turn off the oven. That's done. And I've got this nice and sliced here. All right, there's that. And just dice these here. So just kind of standard dicing technique, nothing fancy, cutting them up together. I will give them another cut because, again, they're going in the dressing, and if I get a bite of one of these, I don't want to have to go rushing to eat all the bread and eat all the yogurt. I just would like to have the flavor. So because of the extra amount of zucchini that was used, I am going to double the recipe for the dressing. So I'm going to add in another 1/3 of a cup of the yogurt, because as you can see, that little bit of yogurt and that big old bowl of salad, we have a little bit of disconnect there. Also, these chilies were pretty big, so we want those to make sure that we are balanced with our ingredients. All right, so, that's good thing that was our last chop for the knife. We have another one in here. And while I'm in here, I should probably get out the bread knife. So, here we have the chilies. All right, so let's get the hair out of the way. All right, there we go. So we're going to add those chilies there, and then I'm going to grab another 1/3 of a cup of the yogurt, and then we want to get it in a little bit more lime juice as well. There we go. That was another tablespoon, and then let's not forget to add in a couple more drops of the stevia too. There's that. Okay, excellent. So now we are going to stir this around. So stir, 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 stir. All right. Okay. So, and okay, there you go. So that's what the dressing looks like. And now we just want to add that to the salad, and then we are ready to go. So, I think I have a bowl that is one larger than this, which would make it much easier to toss. So I will actually do that now. And I'm just going to get a nice spoon here, spoon this in. There we go. There we go. Excellent, excellent, excellent. All right, so that is our zucchini noodles. And now we're going to add our dressing right on top of those noodles. So good. You see how fast that was to put together. No reason for you to buy store-bought dressing. You don't know what's in it. Usually they add sugars to those things, so that, again, not going to help you with your blood sugar level. All right, so now that doesn't look exciting yet, so let me go ahead and mix this up. I'm going to grab another spoon, and we are going to toss this together. Oh my, so good, you guys. So good, so good. Looking delicious. Okay, Looking delicious, delicious, delicious. How is yours coming? Let me know in the comments. I cannot wait to taste this. So excited for this meal. Oh my goodness. Yum, yum, and yum. So many flavors. It smells delicious. Cannot wait. Okay, so that is that. Salad is done. And I'm going to, for the sake of presentation, put it back in this smaller bowl. Look at those ribbons. Oh, it's lovely. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right, there's that. That's excellent, excellent, excellent. Okay. Oh, and this is great because now all the tomatoes and the cheese and the yumminess is going to end up on top. Woo! You guys, you know how you like weren't necessarily hungry right when you started cooking, but then once you start cooking, you're like, I'm hungry now. I can't wait to try this. That's how I feel with this salad. It is smelling so good. I see some of the avocado in there as well, and that's adding to the creaminess factor. So delicious. Okay, all right, so check that out. That is so yummy looking. All right, can you see that? So good. Okay, now let us bring over the bread. I'm just gonna pull it off, and so there we have the bread there. Probably you can see that. All right, so that looks great. And just really simply, I am just going to cut this in half. I'm gonna do thirds. And do thirds this way. All right, so that's that. And let's set that aside. And we are going to grab a plate. I'm going to get a piece of bread. Hold on. Hold on. It's wanting to stick on the bread for me on the paper. All right. Okay, so now I've got my piece of bread there. And I'm going to pop over here to the stove and get my sloppy Joe mix and put that on there. Yum, yum, and yum. And then let's get a little bit of salad and pop that right on the plate as well. Look at that, look at that, look at that. You guys, so good. I'm gonna get a few more tomatoes for topping on that. That's delicious, that's delicious, that's delicious. And we have dinner. Dinner is served. Look at that. Yummers. Okay, well, you guys, that concludes tonight's presentation. And if you have any questions, this would be the time for asking your questions now that we have finished cooking. And yeah, so here again is the dish in case you didn't get a chance to see it. And try to get you a good angle there. All right, let's see. Without me having to stoop down into the camera. All right, so there we have it. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. I really appreciate it. It was so nice to meet you. It looks like I have a little bit of garlic on my face, so that is our dish. I am going to have some dinner now, okay? So I will see you next week. Next week we're going to do chicken wings and coleslaw. Yummers. Okay, thanks so much for watching. Have an amazing rest of your day.